This is the AM show. Welcome back. We turn our gaze now to the Bawku situation, and we're going to be contemplating the recent happenings there. You know that 3 gunmen who are now being sought after, fugitives, so to speak, attacked 3 immigration officers. One of them, unfortunately, lost his life. 2 are in critical condition. Now, we dissect that issue this morning, looking at what the surrounding circumstances are and why we still have these incidents taking place, these outbreaks of violence in Bawku. Joining us for the conversation, we have Dr. Doki, who is with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. And we also have Adib Sani, a security analyst. Both of them join us for this conversation. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
So I'd like to know whom I am hearing from now. Is that Doc?
Yes, it's me.
All right. Do we have Adib? Okay. Doc, so looking at this situation currently, it appears to be one that it goes off, for a few weeks, then we come back to a lot of fire. I've seen some statements on social media purportedly from some of the factions in this. I'm talking about the Kusasis and the Bampusis, some of which we've seen. But first off, what do you make of the tension still in that part of the country, even before we get to the specifics of what has happened in recent times?
Thank you very much. With regards to the tensions, it just borders around unresolved issues. Apart from the grievances the suicides have presented or have expressed, there are individuals who have felt that they have not gotten justice. Probably their farms have been seized or relatives have been killed innocently. These minor issues and factors contribute to the changing dynamics with regards to Bawku in general and the conflict itself. Now, when you look at the problems that the sites have presented, right from go, it makes the whole thing protracted. Now it's a pull and push thing. Who takes what has become the problem now? So the matter is, as of now, we look at how we can prevent the proliferation of arms in Bawku. This is a bigger issue now, because then you ask yourself, the issue dies down, then it resonates again. When you have weapons in the system, when you have youths purchasing these weapons, illegal weapons, you cannot have a situation resolved. And more so when people are aggrieved and their issues have not been addressed, you are bound to have these repetitive clashes and innocent lives will be roped in, such as what we just experienced with regards to the immigration officers. So we need to look at the bigger picture of how to prevent proliferation of arms. When you look at the northern part of Ghana itself, the rate of illegal arms in that region is high. Let's now concentrate on how to get these arms out of the system.
In other words, you're saying that we have to de-weaponize, not demilitarize, but de-weaponize that part of the country. But we also know, from posts we've seen on Facebook, from comments that we've heard, from utterances that have been made, that there is a lot in terms of weapons between the 2 factions. And now I've heard, I just don't want to, because of how sensitive this matter is. I don't want to mention which side in order not to inflame any passions or tensions. But we hear one side say, for example, in recent times that we also have weapons now. So if the other side wants to try it, we're going to deal with them. In fact, if the military or police intervenes, we're going to do X, Y, or Z. How do we de-escalate those tensions? How do we do that?
Now, with regards to the weapon aspect you mentioned, well, for we researchers, what we have gathered from the field is that, yes, there are weapons. The 2 sides all have weapons. They have what they call the communal weapons that anybody can fall on, and they have their individual weapons. That is the issue. Aside that, now, how do we de-escalate the situation? We've seen or we've experienced the state agencies, i.e., you talk about the military going in to keep the peace. Now you have the stakeholders. Now you talk about the minister, the deputy, and other stakeholders visiting the area, the factions.
Okay, Doc. Doc, my sincere apologies, my real sincere apologies for this. I have to interject quickly because we have the regional minister on. We just want a snippet from him, with your permission, Doc. Stephen Yakubu
Sure.
is Upper East Regional Minister. A very good morning to you, Mr. Yakubu.
Good morning to everybody and to my listeners and to Doc, who was just online. Morning to all of you.
Right. So on the other end, there's Dr. Victor Doki, who is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. I'd just like to find out from you, looking at the simmering tension within your region, Bawku to be specific, what actions have you brought to bear, supervised from the DISEC and brought to bear at the RECSEC so far on the back of these latest happenings?
Well, the Bawku happenings, as Doctor was talking about, it's a long feud between these two tribes, and that brings about all these things that are happening. What happened recently is very unfortunate. In fact, it's something that usually doesn't happen in Bawku. I'm talking of innocent government workers, being killed. Is very rare usually. But it has happened. These three immigration officers who were basically going to buy some food and to go back, were hit. It's very unfortunate. But we are, as RECSEC, we have been dealing with matters like this, and this is not different. We are intensifying. Government is helping us. Government is bringing in special forces to Bawku, about 1,000 of them, both police and soldiers. Some are already in there. Camps are being built in Bazua, which is our military camp, to house these soldiers. A lot of security things that we are doing that I don't want to mention it on this radio.
But just to intervene briefly, my apologies.
The military to also intensify their patrols also. And also civil society and also individuals particularly to also, if they have any information at all, to let us know. But so far, we have not arrested anyone yet, and we are working seriously on that.
You speak of more medium to long term, measures of mitigating the situation. In the short term, there are real problems, tension simmering. So I have two questions for you. First of all, do you feel this was an intelligence failure? Because apparently there had been talk of some attack coming up. Was it a failure of intelligence, especially as you sit as chair of the RECSEC? Was it an intelligence failure?
No. It's not. Bawku situation is very, very unpredictable. You never know the next minute what's going to happen. And, there are a lot of assault weapons in Bawku. You never know when someone will go and hide somewhere and shoot. And it was in the night. It wasn't curfew time. It's not intelligence failure. Look, we are doing a lot. I mean, the intelligence community is doing great for us. But sometimes it's very difficult for people to volunteer the information. You understand? For example, it can be a loner who just slide there with his gun and heard about something, some people moving in, or even just there to see any car that passes and to shoot in. So I don't think so. The intelligence committee is doing their best, I think.
In terms of arms, the proliferation of arms in there, as minister for that region, is there any move, any plan to de-escalate the situation from that end? Is there any approach to reach out to the Mamprasi end, to the Kusasi end, and try and make them maybe give up their arms, because that is the start of maybe resolving this crisis? As we see, these three immigration officers were shot at. Is there a move to do that?
These things that you are mentioning, we are already doing them, and maybe it would have been worse if we were not doing so. This incident came in after a couple of weeks a couple of weeks silence and a couple of weeks peace. So we're doing a lot of things. Even we have sniffer dogs and things like that there. There are a lot of things that we are doing, but as I said, I don't want to go deep into what we are doing. But there's a lot that government and us, RESEC and MUSEC are doing to make sure that Bawku, even recently, because of the calmness, we have to even review the curfew from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So there was some kind of relative peace in Bawku. And we hope that we'll get to the bottom of these particular incidents so that we're able to bring Bawku back to its normality.
Now, I am going to share some sensitive information with you that, emanates from some posts on social media, which are still up as of this morning. I'm not going to mention who posted it. Maybe these are bits of information that your intelligence will give you or which we could forward to you. But when you read some of what some of these people are putting up, that shooting at the immigration officers is a tip of the iceberg, and we should be ready to see many more of such attacks. I don't want to go into further detail. That was why I was asking you about the intelligence you've been picking on this issue. It would create the impression that we should brace ourselves for even worse. So what mechanisms, security-wise, have you put in place in Bawku to forestall any such incidents, Mr. Minister?
Well, I've already told you what we are doing. As for
I just want something specific from now onwards. What are you doing?
I'm not able to tell you the specifics that we are doing. As I said, this is security matters. I don't want to go specific. The ones that I've mentioned to you, I have mentioned to you. I don't want to go further than that. But what I'm saying is that these same social media issues that has brought Bawku to where we are. And I think that all you, the media people and everybody, Ghanaians, well-meaning Ghanaians, to condemn people who are on social media making all sort of, giving all sort of information and threatening and all that. This whole Bawku thing started from this same social media, you understand? And I think that we should be very careful what we read, what we listen, what we hear, so that we don't plunge Bawku into a complete mayhem area. So that is my advice. But I can tell you that we are in control of the situation. Government is helping us, and we are in control. Otherwise, Bawku would have, it would have been worse than this. So any well-meaning Ghanaians who want to help us, please, any information that you have that you think can help us, get it to us, the security service. But every single day, some of this information is out there. Mostly, they are not true. Mostly, people are just trying to stir matters in Bawku. So we must be very, very careful.
I have two further questions for you, and respectfully, we shall let you go. But the point I made, that is why I made mention of the sensitivity of the situation. And I didn't take anything that had to do with, I was only just bringing to your, intelligence, if you like, that this is what someone is posting, that, there could be likely events like that. So that if you don't have that intelligence, you would be looking at that front as well, because who knows what people would put out there. We've had terrorists put up stuff on social media that no one took seriously, and then there were, attacks on churches, mosques, and all of that. So that's the angle I'm coming from. Now, those two questions. First off, you've mentioned that the perpetrators of this heinous crime have not been apprehended, but what progress has been made on that? Is any progress being made? And finally, what next can we expect from your outfit as far as dealing with this situation is concerned? So the perpetrators, any progress yet? And what next?
Well, as I told you, as of this morning, we have not been able to apprehend anyone at all. Some of these things take time, and we are working on it. Our intelligence committee is working very hard on it. And through this medium, also, I want to appeal to any Ghanaian who is living in Bawku. If you have any information about this, please, can you let us know? Can you let the security services know? As for what we are doing a lot. I've already told you what government is doing. I've already told you what RESEC is doing and MUSEC is doing. And we are continuing to do more, and we are going to do more as we get the intelligence through. And that is what we're going to do. So we need prayers from all Ghanaians, and also appealing to all Bawku citizens, and for that matter, Upper East region, that look, we need to live in peace. We need to negotiate if we have problems. We need to sit down and talk killing each other with assault weapons is not going to help anyone. Thank you.
Mr. Yakubu, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the very best. Stephen Yakubu is Upper East Regional Minister. We just had to get to him since he had to move on to other matters to address the situation there. So far, no progress from what he's mentioned in terms of apprehending the perpetrators of this crime. But he says the security apparatus in the region is up to the task and is dealing with it. Dr. Doki, having listened to the regional minister, is it comforting what he says? The perpetrators have not been identified. It's early days still, but he says it was not an intelligence failure and that security is up to the task. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, well, props to the minister and his colleagues doing a good job there. But let me suggest one or two things for the minister. How about we initiating apt early warning systems? Yeah. Now, if it is not in place, then this is one area they can look at. Now, I know of civil society organizations, i.e. the West African Network for Peacebuilding, who have an early warning system in place. They can liaise with them for bilateral consultations, get these early warnings in place, get the information firsthand as and when an attack is going to happen. Now, the issue about the weapons, as I was stating earlier, it's a problem now. The two sides all know where they keep their weapons. It's not a hidden agenda. For we researchers who have been able to go on the ground and gather information, this is the information we gathered. Communal weapons, individual weapons, the youth go to their farms, they do businesses, and from the gains they get, they purchase the weapons for self-defense. That is the notion now. So you would have these problems with care, if care is not taken, if the preventive measures are not in place. Now, what they can do immediately is to intensify what we call the direct prevention measures, i.e. negotiation, mediation, and specifically, again, the early warning systems. Otherwise, we'll get nowhere. We'll have these kind of problems again. Now, when the early warning systems are in place, they can detect when there are cacophonous, sporadic shootings, then you know that there's something in the offing. But as it is now, the situation is just on hibernation. Any kind of issue from either side can recur, and then clashes will happen. Let's not forget the aspect of March incident, what happened in Narolego concerning the escapement. Now, we cannot forget there is a connection to it. Now, you feel one side, which is the Kusasis, will feel now we have to hold on to whatever we have to defend, should in case they try to bring this gentleman in. Now, all these factors you cannot ignore. You have to add them. When you're on the table negotiation, mediating, finding solutions, you need to factor in all these kind of issues. Then you can have a solution, a workable solution. Then you can go forward and resolve whatever issues that you have.
Hold for me, Doc. Let me bring in Adib Sani. He's a security analyst. He joins the conversation. Adib, I would like your appreciation of the latest incidents and the killing of this immigration officer and the injury of two others. I'm sure you heard the regional minister on that beat. And I would also like to find out from both of you the bit about social media and what I just put out there. Like I said, in the past, there have been church shootings, mosque shootings, where people actually had been posting on social media. Attention was not paid to what they were posting. And before security operatives could say jack, they had carried out what they had threatened. I'm sure you followed what I said about someone's post without giving the full details. What do you make of how crucial is that in dealing with this situation?
Thank you so much, Benjamin. A very good morning to you. A good morning to Dr. Victor. The issue of social media has come up in the past. I follow almost all those pages, those belonging to the Mamprusis and those belonging to the Kusasis. Believe it or not, and I heard Doctor talk about the early warning, systems. That is a great idea. But sometimes the perpetrators even warn us before it happens. For a typical example being last year, there was a shooting incident in which I think 3 persons were killed when their vehicle was stopped. The driver was able, who I know, was able to escape. And according to those, there were some other 2 people who also escaped. And according to them, the vehicle was stopped by an acquaintance, a gentleman with dreads. And guess what happened? His picture was published on social media with threats. We know you caused this. We are going to come after you, and we're going to make sure that you go 6 feet down. And guess what, Benjamin? He was
Tell
killed.
me.
He was hunted down and killed. And that is what happens. Now,
How long ago was this?
that was last year. There was this vehicle coming from Bawku, and later it emerged that it had something to do with a land dispute. The vehicle was stopped. The guys in the back were shot. I think I haven't had those pictures. I don't know if I still have them on my phone. Some other 2 passengers were able to escape. The driver was able to escape, even though they shot at him. The bullet grazed his back. Then he had another bullet lodged in his thigh, but he was still able to escape to tell his story, the following day. And they published pictures of the gentleman who stopped them for the murders to happen. And he was also hunted down and killed. There was also this gentleman, they claim he's a national security agent, one Fatau. He has also been published several times with that inscription, national security agent, and we know you've taken sides, you are doing this, you are doing that, and we'll hunt you. And guess what? He was also recently killed.
Wow. So
yes.
these posts on social media, we cannot take for granted. We can, in fact, intelligence should be focusing on that as well.
Absolutely. And I can say confidently without mincing words that you see this government, no government in the history of Ghana has invested so much in our cybersecurity infrastructure. For the first time in our history, we had at a point a cybersecurity security advisor to the president. Now we have a cybersecurity authority, we have the legislations, we have the structures, and it makes me wonder why we are not tracking these individuals. Because we have the capability, we have the capacity to do so. So they are there on social media spreading hate, and nobody is doing anything about it. And the place has almost become lawless. The thing is, when you kill my relative, instead of me go report to the police, what I simply do is to pick a Kalashnikov and go looking for those who killed my brother. So it has become a consistent pattern, a cycle of violence, counter-violence, reprisals in that order, because they cannot trust the police to investigate, because there are so many parts of the area where even the military don't go unless it is a full operation. How much less the police? So it is safe to say that Bawku is damaged, but it's not unrepairable. Just that we need commitment.
Bawku is damaged, but it's not irreparable. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. These immigration officers who were shot at, from my initial observations, I'm tempted to think it's intelligence gone wrong. Because what they do is, the factions, they have people at lorry parks, at the hinterlands, entry and exit points. And you know what they do? They go, for example, to the lorry parks, and if you are wanted and you are about to board the vehicle to Bawku or leave Bawku, then they call their comrades. Okay, you've just boarded this vehicle. This is the number, this is the color, this is the make of the vehicle. And when you get to a certain point, they might just stop you, bring you out and execute, or they might just fire at the vehicle. And that is what has been happening for some time now. So I think that it is likely that these immigration officers were not deliberately targeted, but they thought they were people they are looking for. But
so they could have been caught in the line of fire without necessarily being those that were being sought after.
Absolutely. And this is giving us a new perspective about the conflict. And I'm sure Dr. Victor would agree with me. Lately, you would realize that there's been a consistent pattern in which those getting killed are neither Mamprussi nor Kusasi. Now, more neutrals are getting neutralized. More neutrals to the Bawku conflict are getting neutralized by the day. Bisas are getting killed, Moshis are getting killed, houses are getting killed. The day the immigration officers were shot at, a Fulani man in his Mahama Kamu
Going for an interview. Please,
was also killed, unfortunately. Meanwhile, he is a Fulani. He has nothing to do with the conflict. And that is what we are seeing, with this Bawku issue. People who are not Mamprisi or Kusasis getting caught, and it brings to bear two major issues that we need to pay attention to. One, the possibility that the violence would spread and also widen in scope with more tribes coming in. Even between Mamprisis and Kusasis, you see how difficult it is to make sense of the whole issue. We are almost finding it impossible to resolve the issue. So you can imagine if Mushis join, Bises join, Houses join, Dagumbes join, it will be a cataclysmic situation.
Quickly, Adib. So you say it was intel gone wrong. Would you go ahead to classify it as an intelligence failure? And quickly, what do you think about the state of arms in the hands of both the Kusasis and the Mamprisis in Bawku? How prevalent is that? Have we been able to disarm them? What do you make of that situation?
Okay, so
have we done enough in that regard?
Okay, so with the intel gone wrong, I'm talking with specificity to the sites, not state intel, because the sites, they share intel, amongst themselves, amongst the various combatant units, and that is when they are fed information before they stage the attack. So I think the information they were given with respect to a blue vehicle turned out to be persons who had nothing to do with the conflict and were, immigration officers. The issue of proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the area, like Dr. Victor mentioned, is grave. It is disturbing. Sometimes I'm called. Anything that happens that very minute, I get called. In fact, I'm sure I haven't got the names of the immigration officers before anyone did, and I asked them to let me listen to the background, and you hear the sound of gunfire, and you wonder what type of weapons these are. And it is also emerging that we have now gone beyond the use of Kalashnikovs and M16 rifles, but now they have explosives, because there was a recent report about an intention to blow a bridge in that area. I'm also hearing that they might have even had access to RPGs and other, deadly weapons. So the place is awash with these weapons. And our approach to countering it has been unscientific. What they do is, we have intelligence about some weapons in this house. Then we go there, search the whole place and retrieve the weapons. But you see, the people have now mastered the art, such that you can come and turn the house upside down, you wouldn't find anything. That is a problem. So what we have to focus our attention on is the supply chain, where these weapons are coming from, who are trafficking these weapons, what is the route used, and how we can block them from coming in. Because the more you seize, the more it comes. Because they have funding. They have funding even from outside of the country. So we need to get scientific with, addressing the issue of proliferation of small arms and light weapons in that area.
Hold for me, Adib. Let me bring in Doc one more time. So when you listen to how far we've come as far as this conversation is concerned, you've heard the regional minister, you've heard Adib Sani and the importance of social media posts. What do you think should be done in the immediate term? First of all, in terms of apprehending the perpetrators of this heinous act and moving on to stem the tide of violence on the back of the latest chieftaincy dispute?
Well, first of all, you mentioned about the Facebook post. Now, that could be a first step. Get the police involved. I'm sure they're already on it. Now, posts such as these provide a lot of information. Where, who, and how. Then we can start with that one. Now, going forward, there needs to be bilateral consultation with all stakeholders. Now, as it is now, they need it more than ever before. Get the CSOs involved. They have the capacity. get them involved, get these early warning systems in place, and get the weapons out of the region. Let's initiate a prevention measure. Let's look at the direct prevention measures, because with regards to the structural prevention measures, we don't think we can achieve them now. So get the direct prevention measures in place, and then you can get somewhere with sustained engagements, because without it, we cannot resolve this conflict, and it will happen again and again.
Some of what you propose, people who follow the space would say easier said than done, Dr. Doki.
Well, you will agree with me if we don't begin and start. Now, what's going to happen is that region is going to be a pull factor for extremists, violent extremists. And we know they are lurking around our border, Burkina and Mali. So we'd better start something now.
In terms of strategy, if you could advise Mr. Yakubu right now, what strategy, would you propose for him on the back of the latest happenings? And I'm talking short term, medium term, long term.
Yeah, the short term, as I mentioned, get these direct prevention. It deals with imminent, immediate threats such as these. Get the early warning system in place. Now, involve the youth in mediations and negotiations. Get the youth involved, the leaders themselves, because they know the in and outs of the region. Then you can get somewhere. Then now you can look at the bigger picture, consulting the community itself, the Bawku Ethnic Peace Committee. Let's not neglect them, because they have been established to deal with these issues. So we can get somewhere and resolve the Bawku issue, the conflicts, permanently.
Doc, just stay with me. Maybe we'll take another 30 seconds of your final thoughts. But I'd like to bring in Adib Sani. For you, what is the way forward? Short term, medium term, long term?
I'm already late. Sorry.
Dr. Doki, if you have to go, if I hear you having to go, then you can just give us your wrap-up comments and take leave of us. Doc? Hello, Dr. Doki?
Yes, sir.
If you have to go, if you are the one I heard who has to go, then you can just give us your wrap-up comments and take leave of us respectfully, sir.
Okay. Now, what can be done is, let's get the civil society organizations in place. I know of, when I had to do the field research, the Bawku Inter-Ethnic Peace Committee, ONEP, and then BUDA, get these civil society organizations. Now, they know the grounds, they know the whereabouts, they know the in and outs of Bawku area. Get these civil society organizations. Let's have a bilateral consultation, i.e. with the state agencies. The National Peace Council has to come in. Then we can now sit on the table, get the two sides, get their interests, needs, and wants, and then we propose solutions to them. And then we move forward and resolve the issue.
Thank you, Doc, for joining the conversation. Thank you for your time with us this morning. Let me take Adib Sani on that. Short term, medium term, long term. What would be your strategy?
Okay, so recently a group of NGOs made up of representatives from various NGOs in the country, including the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, West Africa Network for Peace Building, NORSAC, Widows and Orphans Center for Youth, and even JETIKE, Center for Human Security and Peace Building. We held a meeting on the issue of Bawku, and I have the documents right here before me. We came out with a number of interventions that are short-term and long-term in nature. I wouldn't be able to go through the list because the document is quite bulky. But in essence, we urged governments in the short term to designate one of the ministries in charge of security to the Bawku conflict to present a more coordinated front, as well as harmonize the government's efforts at addressing the issue. We also encouraged government to ensure a strong security presence in Bawku. We called on government to support the work of civil societies. We called on government through the Ghana Police and the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons to institute a program to rid the area of illicit weapons. We also called for direct and indirect sponsoring sponsors of this conflict to desist from doing so, and the security agencies to take action. So it's a number of things that we are calling on government and other stakeholders to do. However, Benjamin, in the midst of all of this, there's one ingredient we need, and without that, there's no way we can succeed, and that is commitment, and that is what is lacking. There's absolutely lack of commitment towards dealing practically and progressively with the Bawku issue. I'll be very honest with you. There are some politicians who are benefiting from it, and so it is in their interest to ensure that they keep fighting, because it is from the fighting that they are able to politically capitalize or leverage on it to win political favors or make political gains, and that is a problem. We also have some individuals who are sponsoring. So if we are able to stop all those from coming in, I think that would help. But the most important thing is for government to show commitment. You cannot serve two masters. That's the problem. You can't. And hopefully going forward, government also needs to prioritize human security. A lot of young people there, by age 18, they know how to handle rifles.
Right.
By age 8, at least you should know how to handle the hoe and the cutlass, right? But that is what is happening. So we need to pay attention to youth unemployment, people not having access to basic necessities of life, food, shelter, water, sanitation, adequate health care, and the rest. Because by so providing these essentials, I'm sure it's enough disincentive for people to pick up arms to go kill themselves.
Interesting points. Adib, thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning. Adib Sani is a security analyst. Before him, we also had Dr. Victor Doki, a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, together with the regional minister, Upper East Regional Minister, Stephen Yakubu. He also joined us with his thoughts. Well, we're drawing the curtains on this conversation, but up next, just as the Electricity Company of Ghana has been trying to mop up revenue and claim from those who are illegally tapping into their connections or not paying for the power consumed, the Ghana Water Company Limited is embarking on a similar drive to mop up mobilized revenue. We have a conversation with that entity right after the break. Do stay.